Hello, future teachers! Welcome back to the Tower Languages TKT Academy. I'm glad you're here and ready to continue improving your teaching skills. In today's lesson, we're going to explore one of the key topics from Cambridge TKT Module 2, Unit 23, Consulting Reference Resources to help in lesson preparation. By the end of this lesson, you'll understand the essential concepts, see practical classroom examples, become a more confident English teacher, and be better prepared for the TKT exam. So let's get started.
You know, building a solid professional teaching toolkit is literally what connects all that educational theory you've learned to actual real-world classroom confidence. It is so absolutely vital for your development as an English teacher because knowing exactly where to find the right information saves you tons of prep time, completely prevents that awful feeling of classroom panic, and ensures you're delivering accurate, effective lessons every single day.
So, here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll dive into grammar and vocabulary tools. Second, anticipating learner difficulties. Third, expanding your repertoire. And finally, number 4, the golden rules of reference.
Okay, let's jump right into Section 1, Grammar and Vocabulary Tools, and how to select the right resource for the right task.
Imagine this. A student hits you with a super complex question about the present perfect continuous tense. We've all been there, right? You feel that sudden spike of panic. Well, to prep for tomorrow's lesson, you really have two choices. You could grab a teacher's grammar book. Now, that'll give you a deep linguistic dive using academic jargon like aspect, auxiliary, and participle. But if you try reading that explanation to a pre-intermediate student, they are going to be completely lost. And that is exactly where a learner's grammar book comes in to save the day. These books use simple, graded language and really practical examples. Using one doesn't just check your own knowledge, it actually hands you the exact simple vocabulary you need to explain that tricky tense effectively to your students.
Now, moving beyond traditional books, we've got electronic corpora. So what's a corpus? Basically, it's a massive electronic database of spoken and written language. And here's the cool part. Modern grammar books and dictionaries actually rely on these corpora instead of outdated, rigid rules. They let us check authentic, everyday language use. For example, you might wonder if people actually still say it's raining cats and dogs. A quick search in a corpus will show you that it's actually incredibly rare in modern spoken English, but saying it's pouring down is super frequent. That realization completely changes what you're going to teach. A corpus basically gives you the real-world answer to, do native speakers actually say it this way?
Speaking of real-world use, let's chat about dictionaries. Picture this. An intermediate Spanish-speaking student wants to say they feel ashamed. They look it up in a bilingual dictionary and get embarazada, which actually translates to pregnant. They use it in a sentence and boom, chaos ensues in the classroom. Bilingual dictionaries are fine for lower-level learners who just need a quick translation for sure, but they really don't give you much info on how to use the word in context. So this is the exact moment you want to transition your students to a monolingual dictionary. These define the word in English and provide that crucial context, which is just absolutely essential for your intermediate and advanced learners. So, a modern learner's dictionary? It is a total powerhouse. Take the entry for a simple word like take. It's way more than just a definition now. It gives you frequency indications, showing you how common the word actually is in everyday life. It lists synonyms and antonyms. But here's the best part. It includes warning notes about common errors. Honestly, think of this feature like a tiny co-teacher sitting on your shoulder, whispering warnings about the exact mistakes your students are going to make before they even open their mouths. It turns a basic reference book into a brilliant pedagogical tool.
And you know what one of the most important features in these dictionaries is? Collocation. Collocations are just words that naturally hang out together. Like in English, we make a bed, we don't do a bed. We take a picture, we don't make a picture. Teaching these natural word pairings is absolutely vital for your students' fluency. If a learner says do a picture, they might be technically translating the verb perfectly from their native language, but they're missing that collocation knowledge that makes it sound natural. Teaching vocabulary in chunks rather than just isolated words is a massive game changer for fluency.
Of course, sometimes a general dictionary just doesn't cut it. That's when you hit the specialized dictionary library. Let's say you're suddenly assigned to teach a CLIL geography class tomorrow, Content and Language Integrated Learning. A specialized curriculum dictionary is going to be your absolute best friend. Or, if you need help sounding out a tricky word, you'd grab a pronunciation dictionary. Teaching a text full of cultural references, a dictionary of culture gives you that specific context. There's literally a dictionary for everything. Idioms, phrasal verbs, common errors, you name it. They've got you covered for any teaching challenge.
All right, moving on to Section 2, anticipating learner difficulties, and shifting our focus from the language to the learner. So I want you to think about this for a second. Have you ever wondered why your Spanish-speaking students make completely different errors than your Japanese-speaking students? It's a fundamental question, and knowing the answer totally changes how you prep your lessons.
The secret here is L1 interference. Basically, when a learner's first language, their L1, filters how they understand English, it causes some very specific, totally predictable errors. For example, a Spanish speaker might say, "is raining," without the it because Spanish is a pro-drop language. Meanwhile, a Japanese speaker might really struggle with L and R sounds, or the whole concept of articles like a and the, because those concepts simply don't exist in their native language. To prep for this, teachers use language awareness books and guides on L1 interference. By checking these out, you can anticipate those exact hurdles before they happen and design exercises to tackle them head-on. It saves class time and saves your students a ton of frustration.
Let's slide right into Section 3, expanding your repertoire. We're looking at pedagogical resources and your teaching community. Your very first stop for lesson planning should always be the teacher's book that comes with your course book. But remember, it's not just a giant answer key. It actually explains the why behind the correct answers. Even better, it offers alternative procedures. Now, this is the absolute secret weapon for surviving a mixed ability class. It gives you different ways to run the standard activities, maybe offering easier or harder options so you don't have to plan 3 completely separate lessons from scratch. Plus, it usually comes with supplementary worksheets and progress tests that will save you hours of prep.
But hey, let's be real. Sometimes the course book gets a little boring for both you and the students, right? So what do you do when you need a break? That is when you tap into supplementary materials and teachers' resource books. These books and websites are absolute gold mines for bringing that spark back to your classroom. They're packed with fresh activities, totally new teaching approaches, and great articles. They really help you expand your methodology and keep your teaching super dynamic.
Think of supplementary materials as tightly focused tools. Let's say your class completely bombed their listening test on Tuesday. On Wednesday, you don't just blindly push through the next page of the coursebook. Instead, you grab some supplementary skills materials to target exactly what they missed. These are designed to be used on top of or instead of standard activities when you really need extra practice on a specific grammar point, a specific vocabulary set, or a particular skill like listening or reading. They let you tailor the lesson precisely to what your students need right now.
And we can't forget the most accessible resource of all, your colleagues, the human resource. Chatting with colleagues who have taught the same level gives you incredibly valuable road-tested advice. But, and this is a huge point for the TKT exam, you have to use their insights to inform your own planning. Don't just blindly copy their approach. Like, if your colleague is a super extroverted theatrical teacher, their high-energy vocabulary game might totally crash and burn if you have a more quiet, analytical teaching style. Always adapt their brilliant advice to fit your personality and your specific learners.
Finally, we arrive at Section 4, the Golden Rules, synthesizing your knowledge for the TKT.
To succeed on the TKT, you essentially need to become a resource matchmaker. The exam will test you heavily on your ability to pair a very specific teaching goal with the exact right resource type. It's all about application here, not just memorizing definitions. So understanding this synthesis matrix is absolutely key.
Let's walk through this step by step. The exam loves to give you scenarios. For instance, a teacher wants her students to figure out spelling rules on their own. Because the pedagogical goal is building learner independence, the correct answer is dictionary skills worksheets, not just handing them a grammar book. Or, if your goal is finding practical ideas for young learners, you're going to look for primary classroom activity books. Want to anticipate learner difficulties? You consult Guides to L1 Interference. Checking the form and use of tenses, you open grammar practice reference books. The TKT will absolutely try to trick you by confusing a resource's physical feature with its intended classroom purpose, so always ask yourself the why.
To wrap up your consultation strategy, just remember these 3 golden rules. First, always cross-reference. Don't just rely on one single book. Check a couple of grammar books or dictionaries to find the absolute clearest explanation. Second, stay current. Language changes so fast. If you're teaching out of a textbook from the 1980s, your students might sound like time travelers. Old words fade, new ones pop up, so stick to recent materials. And third, leverage those digital extras.
Use the websites or digital platforms included with modern dictionaries for extra practice, audio pronunciations, and collocation searches.
Key takeaways: match grammar and dictionary resources precisely to teacher versus learner needs. Anticipate L1 interference with language awareness books. Expand your repertoire using supplementary materials and colleague insights.
Think about the last lesson you taught. How could today's topic improve your teaching practice?
Congratulations! You have just completed another important TKT lesson. Remember that passing the TKT exam is not about memorizing definitions. It's about understanding how teaching works in real classrooms and becoming a better English teacher. Now it's time to put today's lesson into practice. Visit coursos.towerlanguages.com and continue your learning with resources designed especially for English teachers. There you'll find lesson summaries, downloadable teaching resources, exam-style practice, and more. The link is in the description below. In the next lesson, we will take a close look at Unit 23, breaking down advanced techniques for lesson preparation. Remember, great teachers are made one lesson at a time. See you in the next lesson.